In Blender, we have 5 distinctive styles of bones that we can use and switch to at any given time of our rigging workflow, depending on what we want to achieve. All right, so they're not necessarily in order here, but the first one that I have here is called the octahedral type of bone. Now, this is the standard one that you're greeted with when you're pressing Shift A and choosing armature. It's giving you a single octahedral bone. Now, if you'd like to change that to any of the other types, all you have to do is to go to the actual armature panel here, and under the viewport display, you have the display as, and from there you can choose octahedral, sticks, B-bones, envelopes, and wire. We're going to get back to those as we cycle through them. Now, the octahedral type of bone has quite a few advantages as a standard type of bone. And you'll notice that with the octahedral type of bone, you have visual cues as to where the chain is dynamically pointing. So you have the root and the tip of each bones that are pretty obvious, as well as the rotation main axis or the pointing axis of the bone, simply because of its shape. So that's really, really useful. All right, so I'm going to undo those. Right beside that, we have the sticks types of bones. They're a little bit less visually cuative, but they do have some visual cues, and they're also very minimalistic when you want to, quickly see stuff without necessarily seeing the bones. You can quickly switch them to those, and you'll still know where the chain is pointing, because the root bone of any chain will have a dot on each side, but each of the children will only have a dot at its tip. So it gives you visual cues as to where it's pointing, just not directly the true rotation of the direction of the bone. So that one, you lose that cue. And beside that, we have even more minimalistic, which you have no visual cues as to the actual direct scale of the bone, except for the length. But you don't have visual cues to the actual pointing direction and rotation of the bone. Now, I rarely use those, but for stick visualization, this is really awesome. Now, beside that, we have the envelope types of bones. Now, these bones have the advantage of being usable in order to create either a simple envelope type of rig, so binding the mesh via the actual envelope itself, or also is used if you want to create some automatic vertex groups, so assign automatic weights to the bone by directly parenting the object to the armature, and then you have an option to create some automatic weight. Well, it's actually using these envelopes. So at any given time, if it gives you weird results, you can come in and actually change the size inside edit mode of each of these dots, and it will change the radius of assignment of these weights. So very useful at the beginning of a rigging when you have a single mesh that you need to weigh and that's going to bend uniformly. This is a very good way to start, and then from there you can actually edit those vertex groups that are created for you. Right beside that, we have the bendy bone. Now, these are my favorite bones because they have an extra advantage that is only usable inside Blender, by the way. So if you export this to game engines and such, it's not gonna work. But if you can still use these, just don't subdivide the bones to create some extra fine bending. Now, to create those fine bendings, you go to the bone menu and simply open up the bendy bones, and you can add some segmentation to the bone, as you can see. Now, if I rotate the bone, you will notice that now I have a nice bend here. So it's very nice to add some things, something like cables and ropes and such. You'll get a very nice bend to it with fewer bones than if you would do for a game, for example. You'd probably go with more bones, but not as much as this for games, in order to, keep sure that you don't go over the limit. Now, the other thing that I really like about those bendy bones, I'm just going to undo these rotation, is that you can create your own visual cues with it. So if you edit the bone, so going into edit mode and press Ctrl-Alt-S with a bone selected, you can change its scale. All right, so it's really nice that you can do that. For example, if I'm in edit mode with the octahedral type of bone, for example, I need a smaller root bone here. And while I'm working, if I enter edit mode here and I switch this to the active element, I'm gonna press Shift D and I'm gonna scale the bone. Well, now I no longer see the bone. If I want to see that bone, I have to go to the wireframe view. All right, so depending on your workflow, that might be sometimes cumbersome. This is the reason why I use bendy bones instead. So if you go here, for example, and want to do the same thing with this bone, all you have to do is press Shift D and then scale that bone down. So I scale that from the root of the bone by having on active element. And then from there, press Ctrl Alt S to actually scale the bone. And now you have a visual cue as to what that bone is actually doing. So this is one of the advantages that I really like when you're starting the rig at an early stage. I can easily use those to give me an idea of where I'm going with my rig as I'm moving along.